You've been here all those 50 years. What do you recall of the beginning?
I remember John Enoch coming up to me and he said, "We're talking about starting an English parish. So would you be interested?" And I said, "Yes, I would." So that was the very first that I heard of it. So then once we started to move looking for a place of worship, I joined with them and we joined then.
What happened at St. Nicholas, we had an English service. One Bill Kozar came. It was suggested to him that we look for a formation of another church. And I made the pitch to the organization, and they rejected it primarily because without Father's blessing, that couldn't take place. And so one day at a picnic, Father Hubiak was there in Fort Belvoir. And Mike Karras, aware of what we wanted, talked to him, and Father said if you had 25 families, we would consider forming the church. So talking amongst ourselves, we found 25 families. We then formed a church and were located in a church here in Maryland. Father Basil had been the supply priest, and he gave a great sermon that was very charismatic person, and so he became our priest here. Well, I might say further, we rented a place in Bradley Hills where we could put up the iconostas and take it down. Serge Gamble was the driver behind buying this parish here, building. His guidance helped us decide to buy this place after renting for a while.
Much easier than building. We were thinking of building.
Once we made that decision and we moved and started serving here, then it was quite nice attendance and good service.
We arrived here in September of 2000, and what we found was a well-established parish. It had a great foundation, a lot of good pastoral work. On a Sunday, it was packed. It was doing very well, and the proof of the pudding with that was a couple of years into my tenure here. In 2002, the parish wanted to consider expanding the facility. And it wasn't my idea, but I supported it because we did need it. And finally, if you're doing it for the glory of God, He's not going to abandon us in that. So the vote was taken, and we went ahead with it 2 years later, in 2004. We managed to complete the project. But the commitment is there. People have been chipping away faithfully at the bills and the cost of it for decades now. And it's a wonderful facility now. It's so kind of classically Orthodox, even though it didn't start out that way. The building itself was a Methodist church, rather simple, rather plain. And now we have the walls adorned with some wonderful iconography, and that project is still ongoing. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of all of this. At first, when I got here, it was a little intimidating. It was not my home. But yet I was embraced, we were embraced, my family and I, warmly. And in a couple of years, we put down roots, and now it's just unthinkable, to have not known all of you for almost 20 years now. It's 2019 as we're taping this. And for me, that's the longest I've been in any one spot for my pastoral We offer the incense of Christ our God, commemorative spiritual witness. Receive it upon the heavenly altar and send down upon us.
When we came in 2002, of course parishioners have changed. People have gotten older people, people have had children and blossomed, and choirs changed. Things have changed in the church. But the way it's done, whoever has come in any of those scenarios, whether it's a choir or a parish or a parishioner or in the altar, they've acquired the mind of, they fit, you can tell they're from St. Mark.
Wisdom let us attend.
We've attended many different parishes in our married life, and I would have to say that St. Mark's is one of the most welcoming and embracing of all backgrounds and cultures and ethnicities in other jurisdictions. They're welcoming in their own way, but I think St. Mark's is almost like a hodgepodge of every culture, every background, every ethnicity that you can find, but they still function as a Christian family unit, and I really appreciate that. I guess the evolution of the younger generation, like children that I had seen as babies, and especially since Father Tim and I go to so many different parishes, and then when we come back, some of these children are in college and they're entering the next phase of life. I think it's encouraging and hopeful to see that these children who were once toddlers crawling around in the front now are getting married and coming back with their own families, and it's also, on the flip side, it's sad because I had friends who were elderly, and then when I come back and they're gone, there's a hole missing where they used to sit.
As Father Basil said, people will come if their heart is here, and I couldn't find myself not here. I wanted to be here. So here was a church in Bethesda. We lived a very far distance from the church. Other people in Maryland, other people lived a very far distance in Virginia. Some lived in DC, some came from very far away, very few were this was their community church. Even our priests didn't live at first next door to the church.
I think it was Bradley Hills Presbyterian Church, and they held the service in the gymnasium, if I'm not mistaken, and I wasn't coming to the church at that time. But they wanted to save money to buy another building or build another church. And so the ladies, which was the Women's Guild at that time, would hold a bake sale or make pierogies, and the men would make kielbasa. I remember that fondly. And little by little they saved up enough money, and I understand that some of the original parishioners even took second mortgages on their house to have enough money to buy the church, buy this building. This used to be a Methodist church. And I think I started coming in 1975 because my oldest son was still an infant then. And I got involved with the bazaar because I went to a Women's Guild meeting, and if you were a member of the church and a woman, you automatically were a member of the Women's Guild. And we had the meeting in the main body of the church there, and I remember the president at the time announced that she could not chair the bazaar that year. Could somebody else do it? And so I'm brand new at the church, hardly knew anyone, and I'm looking around and trying to see who's going to step forward to do the bazaar, and I didn't even know what it was. And no hands went up. And so I raised my hand and I said, what is the bazaar? And they said, oh, well, we make some pierogies, we make some baluki, the men make kielbasa, and we have a little festival, and we sell that to raise money. So I said, I'll do it. And little did I know, 39 years later, I would still be doing the bazaar. And I went up to the president and said, could I have your notes? And she said, oh, I don't really have any notes. And I said, well, how do I know what to make or how much to buy? Well, you know, we just make some, and when we run out, we run out. The men used to make kibasi in this huge, humongous basin, and they would fill a blender jar complete to the top with garlic and put in a little bit of water and blend that all up, and all of that went into the kibasi. Well, it was so garlicky that it was almost overwhelming, but they would, you know, they had the skins and they would make it. Now that the kitchen is renovated and we've, you know, gone from a couple of hundred pierogies to 3,000 or 4,000 pierogies, and one year we actually made 16,000 pierogies.
My Maker and Redeemer, Christ the Lord, was born of the almost pure Virgin. By accepting my nature, he freed Adam from his ancient curse.
And to this day, we still have Pascha preparation. We still have a visit from St. Nicholas. I don't know if the outfit has been altered or not. We still have the Christmas preparations for Christmas. I'm not sure if we still have the pennies for Mexico on a regular basis or some of the other activities that we did. Through the years, the banner has come down. It was outside. It moved from in the hall to downstairs, and things went on. And then, we thought about different activities, but it seemed a part of a regular rhythm, which was very nice. And we saw more attendance, whether or not we had an activity or not. Parents were bringing their children to Vespers, and Vespers was very nicely attended.
Saving our souls from death. Wisdom. Christ our God, the existing, is blessed always, now and ever.
It's my opinion that it's completely adequate to what we use it for. I mean, all of a sudden, if God chose to double us in size, then we'd have another problem. But right now, with the small amounts of new people and growth we have, which is in some ways offset by the losses that we've had as well, people moving and being transferred and passing away and all that. It's kind of stayed the same for a few years, kind of plateaued. But even to do that in this day and age is not stagnation, it's progress. Because everyone who comes here is preached to, ministered to, cared for, blessed, and receives what the church has to give from God to them. Again, there's been a lot of transition. I think there were years during my tenure here where we had more church school students. Some years where we've had less. It's kind of one of those ebb and flow things. The choir is terrific now. When I got here, it was terrific. We had a little bit of a dip. We lost Bob Barber and George Vance, and we kind of went through some hard times with that. And then we kind of reformulated with a team approach to directors, and it seems to have kind of not only revived that aspect of it, but the people themselves. I mean, we encourage new people to come in if they have an interest in singing, if they have any ability in it. We usually give them the training they need. The rehearsals are faithfully attended, although we could do a little bit better on that, I think.
Over time, you see this younger generation sprouting up, new families, new faces. There are a lot of people here today that I didn't know who they were. So I think that's hopeful also, that even though the elderly generation is passing away, there's new growth. I can hopefully imagine St. Mark's 50 years from now as a thriving church in the metropolitan area. But it'll just be different faces and different families. But I think that like Father Tim said, mentality or mindset will carry on. whether or not it's, you know, a certain family's next generation or just new people coming in. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.